I'd like to call this meeting of the Renfrew County Housing Corporation call to order. As we gather this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Has roll call been taken?
Yes, it has, and we have quorum.
Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Our next business is the adoption of minutes of the previous meeting held on October 11th, 2023. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Killaloe Hegarty Richards and the Councillor from Pembroke. I see there are no delegations at this time. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I was waiting for him. I have forgotten to call the vote for the adoption of the previous meeting. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. No delegations, and over to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors. Before I go to my report, which you'll find on page 5, I just wanted to say that today's my last time where I'm sitting up here to greet you and deliver a report, and I just want to say thank you very much to this board. I think it's been an incredible year. It's been quite an accomplishment, I think, to get to where we are today. And we will talk a little bit about the accomplishments that we have had this last year, but I want to tell you how absolutely honored and privileged I feel for having been given this opportunity to work with each and every one of you. You definitely come to these meetings full of concern for residents in our county. You've come here with dedication, and I can't commend you enough for the great work that you do. So thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I wish you all the best in the next year. How that looks, I don't know, because we have inauguration coming up, and the board will likely have some changes, but I do want to thank you very much for everything. So on that, I'll move to my report. I have an information item, and this one is the Community Housing Capital Project Update. And through you, Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to ask if Mr. Dennis Lazary would speak to this. This is his portfolio that he works on and can speak very well to the items in this particular appendix. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair, through you to committee. Not much to touch on this month. We have many projects completed, up to date. We anticipate the roofing on the Lee Street townhome blocks to be completed by the end of the month. And we do have a few projects that are carried over just due to lack of administration and funding. So we should be good for the end of the year. Thanks.
Thank you. With only that today is information. Can we go to resolutions, please?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'll ask CAO Kelly if he can maybe start and kind of preface this for our board. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'll do the spiel once, and I won't do it again at Community Services. How's that? So in terms of setting this up, what I've brought forward, or what Director Lapine has brought forward, at least today, in terms of recommendation, is a bit of a different way of looking at things, as we've done before. We are bringing forward some accomplishments and a plan for 2024, accomplishments in 2023, and a plan for 2024. We are seeking some input from this committee, these committees, on our action plans moving forward, just to be sure that we're on the right track, on the right path to where we are going to be moving into 2024 and future years. It's great to have all the accomplishments listed for 23. They'll form part of a report card as we move forward later this month or into next month as we report back on our strategic plan to council. But it's also great to showcase what we've done to the public as well and to those living in our homes as well. It's been a very busy year, and it's not going to let up. Of course, with the housing crisis upon us, we are just trying to keep up quite often in this department. And I'm thankful to all the staff involved for keeping up quite well and succeeding and exceeding expectations at every turn. So again, we're happy to bring this forward to you for discussion today. And with that, I'll put it back to the director for the recommendation on the floor.
Thank you. So the recommendation reads that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation directs staff to bring the business plans for all relevant divisions under the purview of the Renfrew County Housing Corporation to the appropriate 2024 budget workshop and planning meetings, including any suggested revisions or conceptual projects or areas of concentration.
Can I have mover and seconder, please? We will go with the councillor from Whitewater Region and the councillor from Petawawa. Yes, go ahead.
So the background has been, I think, covered off very well by CAO Kelly, but I would like to maybe bring you to the attached document, which you will find on page 10 of your package. And this is the Renfrew County Housing Corporation 2023 achievements and looking forward to the 2024 considerations and opportunities. And I know you've had an opportunity to read this document. I just want to highlight some of the achievements that we have had over this last year, and I think very well said already, but it's been a very challenging year. We've had a lot on our plates, so to speak. The staff have really stepped up in terms of meeting the needs in the community, and certainly with our partnership with Development and Property in terms of the bricks and mortar pieces of Renfrew County Housing, we've really seen a lot of work this past year. And, you know, for the first time, and we've said this before, and I think it's worth noting again, that this is the first time that Renfrew County Housing has undertaken a project to increase the number of buildings within the portfolio. And specifically, that is the 8-unit or 12 bedrooms that we have under construction right now in the city of Pembroke at Lee and Douglas Street, which is targeted to be able to accept tenants in the new year. And of course, we've had the work done on one of our Cecil Street properties where we are increasing by an additional unit at that location as well. And I think that's really commendable for this board to really thank you as well for having the vision and foresight to move these projects along. Like I say, it's the first time that we've seen this happen, and Renfrew County Housing Corporation has been in business for over 20 years. We were also the very fortunate recipients of $5 million in funding for revitalization of our Renfrew County housing stock through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. This is a partnership that we have with them. Of course, there is a financial component at our end, but this is a huge accomplishment for us to have this additional funds come in to us so that we can certainly work towards our building improvements. This year also saw the huge change, not only a cultural shift, but a duty shift within the administration of Renfrew County Housing Corporation in terms of the caseworker model within our staffing. And this is the first time we've undertaken something that large. And I think that we are already seeing the fruits of that. In 2023, we have staff who are now assigned to buildings and are spending a lot more time within the Renfrew County Housing building, something that is really helpful for all of us as staff and for the tenants. There's been a lot of physical work done within the housing as well this year. You know, the pandemic put a huge pause on a lot of the planned work. We were doing a lot of work around emergency repairs during the pandemic and really had to put on hold some of the traditional annual work, and we've had a big increase in that. And I think, as Mr. Lazary spoke to earlier, we've had lots of projects, and some of them are still ongoing. We were fortunate this year to be the recipients of an additional amount of funding through the Homelessness Prevention Program, which is an annual allocation. This year, that additional funding helped with our housing build on Lee and Douglas, but also allowed us to expand some of our other programs. And these are incredibly important programs as we move forward into the housing crunch that we're in. Some of the smaller things that I think are important to identify too is that we introduced a fob access to one of our buildings here in Pembroke, which has been incredibly valuable. This will ensure that only tenants and staff and those who are to be in the building have access to the building. And this is seen as a huge development and one that we hope to, transfer across to some of our other buildings. We have introduced paperless applications for our centralized wait list, and we introduced some new directives as well. So I think, kudos to staff within Renfrew County Housing and your leadership, because of the amount of work that we did get done in 2023 is quite outstanding. But let's not overlook what we have in front of us for 2024, and we want you to consider some of the things that we've identified as priorities to focus on. And certainly when we get into the budget process, the workshops and such, we'll have more opportunity to really dive deeply into this, and certainly we'll look for your feedback on whether we are on the right track in terms of some of the things that we feel are important. Some of the things in front of us are the building condition assessment, which we call the BCAs, and you will see after this part of my report, we do have something coming forward on that. And this is something where we want to really move forward on in terms of assessing the viability of looking at the condition of our current housing stock and the viability of that, and to be able to identify some of the things that will be important for us moving forward in terms of, the stock and the amount of investment that we put forward. No surprise to any of you that we have had a huge increase in demand on housing. The demand is seen everywhere, and of course when there's a huge demand for housing, it also puts additional pressure on our wait list. People are looking for rent geared to income housing. Sometimes that is the only option that they see available. And it is a big trend right now, and the thing that we are seeing is that when housing was initially downloaded to the County of Renfrew, that was at a time where families were mainly in housing units, not exclusively, but the larger percentage. And a lot of our buildings were built by the federal and provincial government to meet that need. And what we're seeing now is a huge demand for 1 and 2 bedroom units. And that's probably because the demographics has changed significantly. So that's something that's going to be in front of all of us in the next year. And no surprise, we've been talking about this in the past year, and I think it's important to raise it here, is that we are seeing an increase in tenant issues. COVID really seemed to remove that layer and really provide an insight into some of the challenges that people are facing. And since the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of issues within our tenancies. And we really need to focus on addressing some of these. And, I think there are a lot of issues that our staff deal with on a daily basis that they can manage, but then there are other bigger issues. And I speak to things like hoarding, disruptive social behaviors, substance abuse, and other types of issues that really need a higher skill set. So we certainly feel that training and being prepared to meet that need is going to be important. Technology is another issue. Yardi is our current system right now for property management. It's a very old system. It's in place right now for us and several housing providers, but it is a technology that seems to keep increasing with cost year over year. And I will tell you that it's not an inexpensive system. So we feel that it's time to start exploring, as many of our other housing partners in the province are doing, with other platforms that can give us maybe a better value for the money. And of course, staffing is another item that I think we need to be concerned about and feel that we would like you to consider. And that is, we did have approval by this board to bring on a contract position, which was a community housing coordinator, and this position was going to work on, kind of dealing with those increasing tenant arrears, but also look at assisting with the landlord-tenant tribunal hearings. The backlog, as you know, is facing close to 2 years. That's the only way that a tenant can be evicted, and we do a lot of work to ensure that, we do all the steps to prevent eviction, but there are times where we absolutely have to move forward on eviction. And it is very complex. It's a lot of work. It's heavy in administration. And in order to meet this need, we have hired this community housing coordinator, and we feel that this work is absolutely critical for us to have more success within our portfolio. And maybe at this point I can stop right here and see if there's any discussion on these items. Thank you.
Do we have any questions of the director? Yes, Councillor from Whitewater Region.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report. When I read about the BCA and getting it accomplished, and I know we're going to talk about the actual contract to do it later on, but the opportunities that exist beyond that. So when that contract delivers its report, what are our opportunities or considerations at that point? Are any of those going to be realized in 2024? Or will it take us that other amount of time in 2024 before we can actually use that data to make another plan? Or am I missing a point here?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. We can go with what we know from the past. We've had BCAs done in the past, and it is our plan and hope that we will have a report into 2024 that the board can then take a look at and make some recommendations from there. Staff will definitely be working closely with the BCA report in terms of identifying some of the opportunities that we may have. So it is our anticipation, and it is our plan to have something in front of the board in 2024 that will help move us forward on what we do with the current stock and what we consider for future.
Perfect. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. So tied with that's excellent, is the long-term financial plan that would be tied to that. I know we may not have that. That's not going to be in terms of the corporation, the board. Is that something we're going to be able to do out of sync from the normal annual budgeting process within the county to come up with that proposal for a long-term financing plan for whatever that BCA recommends?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I'll start this conversation. I know CEO Kelly will add to it. It's very important that we bring forward a plan, and I know that there's a long-term financial plan as well. But until we have a really good idea of what the BCAs tell us, we may or may not need to link in, meaning that for example, in other communities, they may divest some of their properties, and there's revenue to be realized from that can be reinvested. And that has to be a component as well. At this point in time, it's hard for me to speculate what the BCAs will tell us, but certainly, we're going to work closely with the board and certainly with our treasurer in terms of identifying financial opportunities, and certainly would be looking at the long-term financial plan. And maybe at this point, Craig, you can maybe pick up on that. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Chair. So through you, I kind of promised myself I wouldn't inject ideas into this because this is about you folks. This is your opportunity now well, not your only opportunity. It is an opportunity now to discuss with us, or suppose, or propose, should you wish us to, I shudder a little bit, to increase the number of housing units, to propose, I think at DMP we chatted about this, looking at pending the results of the BCA of a replacement strategy. So we softly mentioned that, but we haven't heard it yet from committee members. We continually hear it. Do we need more housing? Do we do this? Do we do that? But staff is reticent to say, hey, let's build more housing. although we did last year and we're in the midst of building new housing. This is kind of that conversation I think it's important to be had now, because then we can start building plans around that for 2024. Oh my gosh, if we're going to build something, if the BCAs come back like this, what are we going to do? And again, you'll have an opportunity at the BCA time when it comes back. What are we going to do from that point, as Ms. Lapine has suggested? But strategically, or even thematically, to put staff down that road from now to say we should increase, or we should replace, or we should look at a strategy to replace pending the outcomes of BCAs would be important for you to tell us that now, and then we can start building that into our future plans.
Yes, Councillor from Whitewater Region.
That's perfect. I was looking for that permission. So, and that's where I was going. Is great. We're going to accomplish the BCA, but I really think it has to follow immediately with a replacement plan. We have to have a plan defining exactly how many units we want to maintain at some kind of long-term financing plan. Whatever makes sense that we can sustain over 20 years. And that line of operation, that line of planning is different than the line of planning for how many more houses or how many more units should we have, or how many more RGI should we be trying to facilitate with the local economy. But those two lines of planning are interrelated, but they both need to be identified and put in place for 2024. I would put forth that to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Yes, Councillor from Pembroke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of echo what has been said. I guess what we have to look at basically, the large number of units that at one time accommodated, 3-4 bedrooms, either have to be changed. We have to look at that. Changed, demolished, rebuilt, and what's more economical? Is it economical to keep putting money into structures that are beyond their timeline, or is it more feasible to tear them down, build something new? It'll be good for 40, 50 years, based on the new technology, heating, etc. I guess that's the question. There's no doubt that there is a demand here, and we have to look at that. I think there should be a master plan to discuss those things. And we have the staffing and the knowledge, here at the county, of course, to do so. I'm very pleased to see the 10 units going up so quickly on Douglas Street. I see that every day. I sort of travel that area. I think we need more of this type of construction and a real hard look at what needs to come down or to change, or do we expand into a neighborhood perhaps where there's existing social housing now, and keep that as part of the culture, or do we build in other areas? And as always, when I grew up in the West End, remember when the housing unit behind where I am was coming forward, there was a big not in my backyard syndrome. People need a place to live. I've lived there all my life. I don't have any issues. So I think that there has to be some sensitivity to that people, have the philosophy that, well, all these units should be in one area, or they should, because I don't want them in my backyard because I have a $750,000 home as opposed to somebody who's got a $220,000 home. I think you have to look at those things in perspective, and whatever's best, for the corporation, and whatever's best for the people that are reaching out. The rent-geared income truly is an issue. Do we need to have people in a 4-bedroom unit where there's only 2 or 3 individuals? We'll have to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I think this building condition assessment is a really good idea, and to assist us in preparing for the future. I think in light of this upcoming building assessment, though, and keeping in mind some of the presentations we've had recently about the current state of our housing, I think we have to be prepared for the worst case scenario, that many of our units may not be, it may not be worthwhile putting more money into some of them. And then we have to think about what are we going to do? Sell them, tear them down? And with all the statistics we've been given lately, it seems like demand for one unit or one bedroom apartments far exceeds any of the other demands. So if we are going to sell or rebuild, perhaps that's something we can keep in mind, that instead of having a 3 or 4 bedroom house, how can we turn this into a 5 or 6 one bedroom facility? But I think it's great that we're doing some forward thinking here. I just hope the results of this assessment are better than what we think they might be.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, Councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty Richards.
Before I agree with our councillor from Whitewater, again, the Director of Community Services, you're making us go home thinking about something again. You've done that since my time. Thank you for that. But yes, I do agree with councillor from Whitewater. The only thing I'd like to add is we have to keep in mind also that there is a minimum that we have to keep, and we have to keep that at the forefront before we either go down or up, and I think that is going to be reflective in any decision that we make.
Thank you, Chair, and I do want to just build upon some of the comments that were made. We do have an opportunity, and I think the building condition assessment report will give us the door to opening for this, because as Councillor Mayville has spoken to, we do have a requirement under the Housing Services Act to provide a certain number of rent-geared income homes. But we have learned that that does not mean that we have to own the stock. That's one of the things that we've learned, and that's something that I think this board needs to give some great consideration over as we roll out in 2024. We have entered into partnerships with private landlords recently and over the last few years where we provide rent-geared income within the private landlords. We have moved forward with building an affordable and supportive housing building on Lee and Douglas. That's not rent-geared income. That's a very different picture. That's increasing housing within our community, but it's different than rent-geared income. So I think it becomes very important that as we look into the future for housing, that we take a look at the full spectrum and continuum of housing, that it's not focused on one area only, that we look at the opportunities that the building condition assessment will tell us, because it's not as simple as this building may not be worth reinvesting repair dollars into. This building may be a better choice or a recommended decision or a recommendation to the board to maybe divest this. It doesn't mean that we then replace it exactly as it was. It could mean that we have an opportunity to rethink and relook at how housing and the housing supports and the rent-geared income looks like across the county of Renfrew and within the city of Pembroke. And I think that's the opportunity that's in front of you, is that you can actually kind of blue sky a little bit here in terms of thinking what would look good in our community, what would work for us, and what can we financially afford. Because as we know, the current stock is very expensive. So to continue down the road that we have been on is going to be an expensive venture. So I think the opportunity to kind of go home and dream about it and think about it and look at what other jurisdictions are doing and to seek this kind of information from staff will probably put you as a board in a better place to make those decisions in 2024 and beyond. Because I also think that the planning is not for 1 year. You need to look at a few years out. Thank you.
Councillor from Whitewater.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just add, if I was giving my wish list out to anybody who wants to listen to it, I know that there has to be a close linkage in addition to what we've spoken about so far. We also have our homelessness plan being generated through community services. It can't be done in a silo. It's the third piece of these 3 planning lines that we're trying to work on. So it has to be included. And when I look at the last 3 items in your opportunities here, increases in tenant issues, technology, and the staffing, they're also tied to it. I mean, there's no use coming up with this great plan for 1-bedroom houses in a completely new system and then using Yardi, or not having someone to manage evictions. Like, you can't move forward if you're not prepared to do everything. And that all-encompassing strategic plan, that to me, the catalyst is the BCA, let's do it. And it's a big piece to bite off, but if we're going to make change, let's put it all in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any others? Oh, welcome, Warden.
Thank you. I'm only here for a short time. And I apologize, it's just one of those days where things have stacked up on me. When I went through the consideration and opportunities, one of the things that we may want to consider is defining the relationship we have with the 5 not-for-profits. Because some of the stock we've received in the past has been because a not-for-profit had to cease or ran out of runway in terms of volunteers and staff. And so just wondering if we should be a little more circumspect when we review our relationship with them, and what we have to do to support them going forward. We may end up having to become some kind of a vendor for them to provide some services on their sites. I see that they're included in the building condition assessment. I know we did that 10 years ago, I think, and it was quite an eye-opener for them. And I think that pushed a couple of the other boards out of existence because they were worried about the financial investment. But anyway, I think if we can get some language around our relationship with our 5 not-for-profit boards or in corporations that we deal with, because we work closely with them and we may end up working a lot closer in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? In that case, I think we can call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. So item number 3 is another recommendation, and it's a contract approval. It's contract approval 2023-14-RH- Building Condition Assessments - Renfrew County Housing Corporation Portfolio. And the recommendation reads that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve the proposal submitted by Ron Iams Limited, Oakville, Ontario, for the building condition assessments on the Renfrew County Housing Corporation portfolio in the amount of $182,482 plus HST, and further that a contract be executed.
Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Callaloo Haggerty Richards. Continue.
Thank you, Chair. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Director Davis to speak to this item. This is a partnership and really led by the Development and Property Department. Thank you.
Well, if I may, Chair, through you, thank you very much, Director Lepine. Again, just to reiterate, the BCAs are vital to us, and that's why we spend a lot of time and energy at the staff level to issue this RFP. And then with the submissions you see in front of you, a good number of submissions, and the wide range of costs are clearly evident in the committee report. But keep in mind, we're not looking at the lowest cost. We are looking at a whole kind of criteria, scoring criteria, when the scoring team reviewed these submissions. And again, the referrals, the costs, specifically the number of hours associated for this BCA. So that's why, again, it's not the lowest bid by any means, but it's not the highest. And what we feel as a team member, as a county staff, bringing this forward to this committee is this is the best company that submitted the bid, and we want to move forward with this bid. And so again, to reiterate other comments made earlier on in the different items, this is critically important for us to move forward. And I really truly like the idea from the Councillor of Whitewater making that comment, saying we're not going to wait, or what I hear from him, we're not going to wait until we get the results from this BCA to move forward on other items. So I'm very appreciative of that support, Councillor Nicholson. And again, back to this item, we feel very confident with the selection we have in front of you. Thank you.
Any other Yes. Councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty Richards.
Thank you, Chair. So in your report, financial implications, it says there's sufficient funds in 2023. So does that mean that this will be done in 2023?
If I may, through you, Chair, so it'll be started, the contract will be started in 2023 after this, and then the actual payments will start probably in 2024, which we've budgeted for.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor from Whitewater Region.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the additional context that Councillor Mr. Davies provided. I note, and I just wanted to ask the question, is that the highest scoring, Roth, but the second highest one was Paradigm, with just a few points difference, yet about $100,000 difference. And I just want to confirm that weighting was given in terms of the hours assessed or some other, whatever we can discuss in public, as to why that weighting was higher.
Thank you, Chair, through you, to answer the question or provide clarity. So before I kind of lean it back to Dennis and to flush out the criteria without going into a closed meeting, the information that when we reviewed it, yes, they scored high, but the quality of submission and the financial implications are the biggest criteria. So within, again, without going into too much detail, within the submission is not as clear-cut as the one we picked. It's kind of ambiguous, I'm sorry, but I'll leave it at that. And maybe I'll lean over to Dennis, if I could, Dennis, to provide any more information on the criterias.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, so we evaluate the proposal on a number of various items, pricing, how close their price is to our budget. We also take into consideration past experience, quality of the submission, and their references. And at the end of the day, the one that scored the most points is the Roth EMS. Their proposal was just outstanding. Paradigm was good. They ended up losing points because of their references. And Roth EMS is just they are a consulting firm that specializes in BCAs, while all the other consulting firms dabbled in BCAs. So again, we want the best, and it's still within our budget. So we, and again, just blown away by their proposal.
Sounds good to him. All right, thank you. Any other comments? I'd like to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried.
Thank you. To the board, yesterday, late in the day, you would have received an addendum report as well, and I'll just draw your attention to that. And it's an information item, and this is the September 2023 Treasurer's Report for the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. And if you would allow it, I would like to maybe have Manager Jennifer Dombrowski speak to this. She's got the closest familiarity with this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Through you, Chair, to the board. Appendix 1 is the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Treasurer's Report for the month of September 2023. And as with previous Treasurer reports that we have reviewed, we do see some areas of over target and under target. However, all in all, we anticipate to meet budget targets and that this will be reflected at year end when the budget is reconciled. Just wanted to draw your attention to the section for building capital repairs non-TCA as an example, with a variance of over $535,000. We are anticipating that funding through the National the national co-investment funding that Director Lapine spoke of earlier from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, that $5 million revenue stream, that a portion of that funding will be used to offset projects that fell within the non-TCA capital repairs.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to the Manager of Housing and Homelessness Monthly Report. Over to you, Ms. Dombrowski.
Thank you. The report begins on page 13 of your package with information item number 1 that provides an update of a recent meeting that was held with the local nonprofit housing providers. The meeting was on October 12th and consisted of staff from St. Joseph's Housing Corporation, Petawawa Housing Corporation, Kinsman Court Home, Baskin Place, Killu Housing and District, and District Housing, as well as several staff from the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. The nonprofit housing providers collectively provide 252 rental units throughout the Renfrew County. During the meeting, we also acknowledged a longtime employee of St. Joseph's Housing, the Executive Director, John Barracan. He was recognized for his many years of service ahead of his retirement that was at the end of October. Last week, I had the privilege and pleasure of meeting the new Executive Director, Anna Townend. Information item 2 is an update regarding CUPE Local 4425 labor relations. The current collective agreement expires at the end of December 2023. We initially anticipated to have our first bargaining date in the month of November. However, this has been postponed and we are awaiting a rescheduled date. During the first 3 days of November, the Joint Job Evaluation Committee met to evaluate and rate factors concerning the 4 unionized RCHC positions. The committee consists of several members from CUPE Local 4425, the Manager of Human Resources from the County of Renfrew, a County of Renfrew Human Resources Coordinator, and myself. On November 6th, staff were provided with information that resulted from this 3 days of meetings. And with that, they were provided with copies of reconsideration and advice rating forms for their positions, and they are required to respond with any feedback by January 5th. The committee's next meeting date is January 30th. Information item 3 provides a summary of community housing waitlist statistics for the period of July to September. And at the end of September, there were 1,440 applications. And the greatest demand, as mentioned earlier, is for 1 and 2 bedroom units. Information item 4 provides a summary of move-outs, move-ins, and transfers for the period of July to December. During this quarter, 24 applicants from the Housing Registry moved into Renfrew County Housing Corporation units. Information item 5 is a summary of landlord and tenant board notices and applications for the period of July to September. Unfortunately, late or partial payments continue to be a trend, and for the past quarter, this resulted in 365 and 4 notices, which provide notifications to tenants for the late payment of rent. For the most part, late payments are resolved by the end of the month. However, what we see is that late payments can also be habitual due to budgeting challenges and low incomes. Caseworkers reach out to tenants regularly to provide assistance with payment plans and to encourage timely and full payments. Information item 6 provides an update regarding HPP, Homelessness Prevention Program expenditures for the quarter reflecting July to September. Within this, we'll see expenditures for the rent supplement program, rent allowance program, emergency minor home repair, and emergency assistance program. The emergency assistance program is delivered through Ontario Works. All programs except the emergency assistance program remain within or under projected allocations. The HPP Emergency Assistance Program is a critical program for preventing homelessness, and in this program, it's this program specifically that pays for the emergency hotel stays that you have heard us speak to in previous meetings. As with previous years, we anticipate to see higher use of this emergency assistance program during the winter months to cover hotel stays to get out of the cold, as well as to pay for housing retention expenses that may include heat, utility, or rent arrears. Information item 7 provides an update regarding the recent point-in-time count for homelessness enumeration that was held during October 27th up to November 3rd. Surveys were completed at over a dozen locations across the county of Renfrew by the staff and volunteers of those agencies, as well as by staff from Community Services, the Paramedic Service, and the Renfrew County District Health Unit. Appendix 1 provides an infographic summary of the data that was collected. This year, 55 households indicated that they were homeless as of October 27th, of which 65% said they were homeless within Pembroke area. 53% of the respondents were homeless for more than 6 months and identified as being chronically homeless. The majority of respondents were in the age group of 30 to 64. The top reasons for homelessness were due to relationship breakdown and intimate partner violence. And of those surveyed, 42% disclosed experiencing intimate partner violence within their life. 38% of the respondents identified as being Indigenous. And if you refer to Appendix 2, you will see a breakdown of the survey questions further. I have with me the point-in-time count summary from 2022, and I'll just reflect on a few points quickly from that survey. For the previous year, 43 households experienced homelessness, compared to this year's survey, which showed 55. At this time, I would like to thank, first and foremost, the participants who shared their information, to the people who were out in the community, to the surveyors who helped to not only collect data, but to connect people with services. Information item 8 provides a summary of rent arrears for the period of July to September. Appendix 4 provides a comparison of arrears for previous years. Compared to September 2022, arrears have increased by just over $13,000. To address rising arrears and landlord and tenant board activities, as mentioned earlier by Director Lapine, a community housing coordinator contract position was filled at the beginning of August 2023. And the community housing coordinator has been working very diligently with the team to address rent non-payment as well as other tenancy issues. For the months of August and September, they attended 7 non-payment rent hearings that resulted in 2 accounts being paid in full, 2 payment arrangements, 1 move-out, 1 adjournment, and 1 retroactive rent adjustment after important information was submitted to determine eligibility. And another note to comment on is that we are hopeful that the Landlord and Tenant Board is moving in the right direction, and that hearings will start to be scheduled more promptly. As we have seen in the last several years, some hearings have taken upwards of a year or more to be scheduled. Recently, we submitted an application at the end of October, and that hearing is scheduled for March 2024. So while it still puts the hearing several months out, it is a step in the right direction as far as having hearings happen in a more real helpful time frame. And with that, board, that concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to information item number 1. Local nonprofit housing providers meeting. Number 2, Canadian Union of Public Employees CUPE Local 4425 update. Number 3, 2023 third quarter July to September Community Housing Registry waitlist. Number 6, 2023 third quarter July to September Homelessness Prevention Program, HPP. Number 7, point in time count survey. Yes, Warden, sorry, did I miss you?
No,
Okay.
I just was late getting my hand up. Thank you very much for this information. It's quite helpful, and certainly appreciate the effort to go and get it. I think in terms of being able to get as complete a package of information as you did, certainly takes some effort, because it's a very delicate subject for people to have to talk about, and so this is extremely helpful, so thank you very much for it.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, CAO.
Yeah, no, thanks, and normally I don't say much. So when this was put together, I'd asked a few questions, and I'm happy that it came back with the Appendix 2, which further breaks out. I mean, this is a really good snapshot, and I think it was really well done, but the actual stats are incredible, and maybe not what you think. And in terms of a comment, when you think, at least when I think, I guess that's my own view, when you think of homelessness or you think of who's experiencing it, I pigeonhole those experiencing that in a certain age group or certain demography or certain reasons. And when you actually dig into it, it's not who I thought the numbers were where they would be focused on. For example, the larger percentage of people that are experiencing homelessness are in 30 to 64, when you would think the encampments are full of youth. Well, that's not necessarily the case. When you look at items where this committee and this council has addressed in months and years past about intimate partner violence and those experiencing homelessness because of that, these are reasons behind a lot. So I think our actions have been, in terms of council and corporation moving in that direction, have been right-sized and right-focused. But as we look at what our needs are in terms of housing, or even what the needs are when we look at our partnership now moving forward with the communities on the warming centers, the supports for single people and for certain age groups, it would definitely help us move forward in those supports. So again, my commendation to staff for taking this on and all the volunteers for helping. This is very important information for our community, I think for the PACT community that's working locally, and specifically with some of the city efforts that they're trying apart from us. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more, and it made me brought to mind some of the emails that have been going back and forth concerning tiny houses and tiny all over the country. We're hearing about tiny housing groups and small ways to get people off the streets, even if it's the beginning step of going better. Yes, the councillor from Whitewater Region.
Thank you, Chair. Only wanted to add one question, is that when I do see that point about 42% having experienced intimate partner violence, can I just be, we are connected with the organizations to offer, okay. So that's all part of that whole wraparound services. So this is just reporting what you are already dealing with. Okay, good. And Chair, I know we skipped over it, but I'm wondering if I could come back to item number 3.
Most certainly.
Good. So the question I had in there, the total applications or cumulative, and I'm not sure which number to take, but we've had applications, or there's outstanding applications for 1,400 right now. And we currently have 1,000 of our own units and about 200 rent-geared income units for a total of 1,200 units? No? Okay. What I'm thinking is that when I add up those 3 numbers, the units that we own and we have occupied, the people that we're helping in private enterprises, and the outstanding number of people that have asked for housing but we can't provide it, it looks to me to be in the almost 3,000 people range. Am I doing the math correctly?
Yes, through you, Chair, to the councillor, you are doing the math correctly. We essentially would need to more than double our portfolio to meet the housing need that's identified, but the housing need is greater than what is reflected on the wait list, as many bypass applying because of the long wait, where people are waiting anywhere from 7 to 10 years in some situations.
And Chair, if I could, that just to me reinforces the need for that strategic plan. There's a demand for 3,000, and even the current inventory doesn't suffice in terms of a standard of living that we want to offer. So it comes back to reinforcing that strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Yes.
Sorry, through you to the board. And just as a reminder, at I believe it was the August 2023 board meeting, there was a resolution that approved for us to move forward with a 10-year housing and homelessness plan that would have within it a strategy embedded.
I have the belief that the councillor from Whitewater Region doesn't like 10-year plans.
Sorry, Chair, it's not me, it's the budget folks that want more than 10 years.
Well said. I see there is no new business? No?
No, just
Yes?
Chair, just a few little missed items. So we just need a resolution on the director's report as a whole and on the manager's report
Oh, I'm
as a
sorry.
whole.
Thank
That's
you.
okay. Mhm.
All right, the director's report as, yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I thought we were going to come back to the last item, just on the rent arrears. We're at about 134 rent arrears, and if I heard you right, the employee we hired in August has attacked 7 so far. So they've only got 128 left, 127 left to do, but their contract ends in December? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes, councillor from Kelowna Haggerty Richards.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up that question, what would be the reason that there was such a significant jump in September in arrears coming through after the summertime? We were, it just really jumped in dollar-wise, probably went from 83,000 to 107,000 just in 1 month. What would kick that into that increase?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. Part of this will have to be a hypothesis and a bit of a speculation. However, overall, we know that people are struggling with budgeting and allocating the minimal resources that they have. However, there could be an administrative cost to this as well, and that involves when we complete annual information reviews. The annual information reviews confirm what rent amount the tenants are required to pay. And with that, there is information that is requested, and some people find it challenging to submit information. One of the most challenging things that people find to submit would be information concerning income tax or information concerning proof of tenant insurance. So unfortunately, after a period of about 90 days, if those tenants are still not able to or not working with a caseworker sufficiently enough to address the outstanding information, their rent is put up to market rent. And when they don't pay the market rent, the difference represents an arrears amount.
Any follow-up? No? Okay. Back step, we have to make a step back to accept the director's report as presented. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Oh,
We didn't have a mover or a seconder on that.
Okay, I apologize. First, let's have a mover. Ward Nemo, and seconded from Councillor of Petawawa, Town of Petawawa. All those in favor? Thank you. Forward, back, and back again. Do we have any new business? Oh, I apologize. Manager's report. Over you go. It's not in my. Yeah, it's not in my report. Hang on a minute here.
No, we've heard the manager's report, Chair. We just need a motion to accept it as a whole.
Okay, all right.
Sorry about that.
I thought so. I thought I was looking. All right. A mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor from Killaloe Haggerty Richards, second from the Councillor of, I believe, Pembroke. You had your hand up. All those in favor? Thank you very much for your help. Okay, any new business? No closed. And the date of the next meeting is at the call of the chair. Or, this is the last one, I gather. Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move to, can I please have a move the report as a whole? Yeah.
This one's slightly different because you've already done the.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's strange with the. It's not strange.
Yeah, okay,
It's
all right.
the norm with RCHC. You've moved those reports, so you're just good to adjourn this.
All right.
This section.
All right, we may adjourn and stretch our legs, and we. Yeah. So moved. Okay. Yes, Whitewater Region as well. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. We are stretching our legs. I'd like to call this meeting of the Community Services Committee to order. I gather the roll call has been made.
Yes, it is, and we have quorum.
Thank you. We'll have the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on October 11th, 2023. Are there any error, or can I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Whitewater, seconded by the Councillor from Pembroke. Are there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. No delegations at this time. And our Community Service Department reports begin with administration report from Mr. Kelly with some really exciting news.
Absolutely, and thank you, Chair. So it seems fitting on Laura's last community services meeting. We still have her around for a little while, so that's okay. But this is our last committee, unless we throw a surprise at you. I'm going to read this, not normally my style, but I'm going to read this one because I think it sums it up. So attached is a letter received from OMSA, who is the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association, from the President and Executive Director, notifying the County of Renfrew that Laura Lapine is the 2023 recipient of the Patty Moore Human Services Integration Award. This award is an annual award that is given to a social services leader who has a proven and respected track record of achievement in human services and in the development and/or application of the theory and practice of human services integration, demonstrated experience and commitment in placing clients and people at the center of the planning and administration of human services, and someone who has strengthened or broadened internal and external relationships to achieve a common vision of seamless service delivery. So without getting into the details when Laura's going to receive her Oscar award, I think it would behoove us to heartily congratulate Laura for an exceptional career and exceptional award.
Speech.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to committee, it is my absolute honor to receive this award. I was totally taken aback when I was notified, and it's been my pleasure to do the work that I do with the team that I do, and to have the support of the committee and the leadership that exists here. It couldn't have happened without all of the players. So really, I feel like I'm accepting the award on behalf of all of us, because it's not simply my work. It's not simply what I did, because I didn't really do any of it. I did it as part of a team, and that team consists of the folks that you see here and you folks here, as well as the senior leadership team, the administration here at the county, and of course the staff and community services. So I thank OMSA, I thank everyone, I thank those who put my name forward, and I don't know, I just don't feel that there's enough words to convey how honored and privileged I feel in receiving this. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Although you say it's teamwork, every team needs a leader. Thank you. I think that's the end of your report, Mr. Kelly. Let us go on to the department report from Ms. Lapine.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee, my report begins on page 7 of your electronic package. And once again, we have information items. The first one is childcare availability in Ontario. I think this is a really good item to review. This is something that I know this committee and here at the County of Renfrew and our childcare department struggle with all the time, and certainly have seen a lot of comments from this committee, and certainly when we have gone to, when you have gone and we've joined you at AMO and Roma. I think this is a really good starting point from the municipality of Bluewater, and I encourage you to take a read and go from there. Item number 2, we were very fortunate as a management team with community services, which consisted of myself and the managers that you see here today. We were invited by Killu, Haggerty and Richards to come and present at their council meeting. which we did back on October 4th. We're very thankful for the opportunity, and I will say the donuts that you brought in were absolutely fantastic. Some of you may have had an opportunity at the last council meeting to have some, because Councillor Mayville did bring that in. But you'll see the attached presentation that we use that guided our conversation with that council. And again, thank you for that opportunity. We really enjoy getting out into our local municipalities and talk about the work that we do, because I think there's a lot that you folks know we do, but I think in terms of the general population and other councillors, it's a lot to unpack, and I think having that presentation really helped your council as well. Thank you. Item number 3, it's very exciting news for Senior Women Living Together, SWLT. This is an appendix attached for you, and hopefully you can distribute this within your municipalities as well. But Senior Women Living Together is a program that started off in Peterborough. This is a very wonderful program that matches senior women in a variety of ways for housing. And they are launching their first ever outside of the Peterborough area into Renfrew County in January. And this is something that we certainly have had lots of conversation with this group in terms of how they're going to do this and partnership. And we feel very, very pleased to have this in front of you. And again, would certainly encourage you to share this information, because this is really about people, senior women specifically, having an opportunity to find either a roommate or a new housing situation that really complements their lifestyle and really assists in the whole housing spectrum for senior women. And I'll stop there with my information items. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go back to number 1, childcare availability in Ontario. Yes, Councillor from Whitewater.
Thank you, Chair. And I went through the municipality Blue Waters report, both the letter that was enclosed as well as the report that led to the letter. And it was interesting to see the impact they're having, where whole childcare centers are closing. Like 72 spots gone, they can't find enough employees. YMCA closed, not enough employees. You can see how it's really hitting Blue Water very, very hard. And I know I'm stealing thunder from Margot for later on in the report, but you're seeing our vacancies here. We currently have 32% of our spaces. We are unable to fill these spaces because we don't have staff. I think it's worthy for the committee to consider passing a resolution or recommending a resolution to County Council to offer a resolution in support of what Blue Water has sent around, and to reinforce the message, it's not just in Blue Water.
Are there any comments on that one?
Good. In accordance with the CAO's nod, I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion to do that, please.
Yes, you certainly may. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor from Pettawa.
And Councillor Nicholson has already made that motion, so we just need a second on that one.
All right, thank you. I would like to add just a personal note concerning childcare. My daughter-in-law left the profession where she had 2 university degrees and childcare, I don't know how many different types of diplomas she received, worked for at least close to 15 years, and during the pandemic could not do it anymore for many reasons, but a lot of it had to do with the pay and the hours. And unfortunately, she's gone on to some very interesting things in pharmacology. She's working as a pharmacy assistant at the moment. But it's really unfortunate, and I'm in total agreement with you.
So just a
Yes,
bureaucracy of it all. Just a second to that, to Councillor Nicholson's motion. So you'll require getting a second, and then we can vote on the motion after.
All right. Second? Yes, Councillor from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. All those in favor? Thank you. Next is Department of Community Services presentation. and senior women living together. Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Laura, do we know what this rollout is going to look like in terms of where it's being introduced, how it's being introduced?
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you through you, Chair, to committee. They're going to launch a campaign. It's going to have some media blitzing, and it is a platform, so it's an online platform that people would apply to, like, get connected. So it's not an in-person kind of thing initially. So they're working actually with us in terms of talking about some of the best ways within Renfrew County to get the word out. But they're talking about a media blitz, every online opportunity, certainly, posting it in as many places as possible. From there, they have a program where people would sign up, so people who own homes or have homes to rent, as well as women who want to be part of it. There's quite a few different scenarios. They would apply online, and then they have a team of people that will start to work individually with folks. This doesn't happen really quickly because they like to take the time to make sure the matches are really good matches. So at this point in time, and I know Jennifer was speaking with the founder yesterday in terms of maybe a Facebook social media page to get started and some other opportunities. So we're still working with them. But the launch is set for January, and as you can tell from the poster, it's just an announcement right now to get the word out, and I think as they move forward, they're going to add to it. It's building on what happens here in Renfrew County. They hope to move into other areas, so we really hope that this becomes a successful launch. But certainly if there are other opportunities to get this out there, we'd be more than happy to share it with this group as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to resolutions. Oops.
Thank you. The flying glasses. So item number 4, which is a resolution, and it's the 2024 budget, and I'll just go ahead and read the recommendation, if I may. Thank you. So the recommendation is that the Community Services Committee directs staff to bring the business plans for all relevant divisions under the purview of the Community Services Committee to the appropriate 2024 budget workshop and planning meetings, including any suggested revisions or conceptual projects or areas of concentration.
Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Yes. Councillor from Town of Petawawa and Councillor from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. And can we have some background?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So as mentioned earlier in our previous board meeting, we have an opportunity to bring this forward to committee to talk about our Community Services Division, which consists of childcare and early years, Ontario Works, and community housing, to talk about some of the accomplishments that we have achieved in 2023 and to bring forward to you what we see as important items to consider in terms of 2024. So you will find this on page 26 of your package, starting on page 26 and moving into page 27 and beyond. In terms of accomplishments or achievements in this Community Services Department, I think we have to acknowledge the great work that the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare, or what we call CWELC, program has done in 2023, which is really significant in reducing parent fees by 52.75%. And that, I think, is something that the whole community is feeling, anybody involved in childcare. As well, we were able to see 281 new licensed childcare spaces created this year and more licensed homes. So that's good news within the childcare area. We've also, as you may recall from earlier this year, brought forward another agreement for our childcare inclusion team, which, as many of you may call or recall, is our special needs resourcing. The May Day that took place through the childcare department was a renowned success, with the largest number of people ever coming to a May Day And our May Day is definitely talked about throughout the province because of the caliber of presentations and the level of engagement that does take place. And I think kudos to the Child Care Department and the whole Community Services Department, and of course you folks for supporting this incredibly important venture. We did a lot of work in 2023 to expand on our French language service plan. You may notice that when you come to the building, especially for 7 International Drive, we have all of our signage, exterior signage in both French and English, as well as all of our documentation in French and English, which is a big step in moving forward in that area. In the Ontario Works area, we did the successful transition to the new employment services transformation as of October 1st. That was a lot of work for the department and a lot of work for the Ontario Works staff in terms of making sure that this rollout took place very well. And so far, so good. We've only had a few weeks in, but in terms of the new partnership with Employment Ontario and the service system manager, which is Serco Canada, we have seen great relationships and partners forged in there. Lots of work took place in terms of our partnerships within the community, and this year saw us out in the community a lot more. Of course, during the pandemic, most things were done virtually. We didn't have as many in-person, face-to-face meetings as we did this year, and I think that goes a long way in terms of identifying the great work that our staff do and making great connections. Relationships are being built every day with all of these important partners in the community. We were very fortunate with our active Ontario Works files, having them digitalized in 2023. We have utilized a program that allows us to no longer have to carry hard files, and all of our documents within Ontario Works are now uploaded into our SAMS system. The very successful Renfrew County Risk Watch table happened in 2023, and this is a very important thing that we feel is something we need to continue to move forward with. And this is a collaborative table, and we have great partners at this table, and we're very active on this table as well. Through our Built for Zero Canada, we saw a beautiful recognition as well, which we brought in last month, we were able to reduce homelessness by 10%. The County of Renfrew, and certainly with the leadership of Warden Emo, we saw the declaration of intimate partner violence as an epidemic, and this was something that is very important. On a side note, on behalf of the Warden and the County, I did attend United Way awards for the Community Builder Award for Eastern Ontario last week, and the End Violence Against Women Renfrew County was a recipient of that award, and they were very, very thankful for the great work that the County of Renfrew is doing in terms of the intimate partner violence declaration and the other work that has taken place. Of course, we cannot overlook the great work that has taken place recently with the ad hoc committee that was recently formed by the county for the warming center, and we look forward to the work that's going to continue with this and address the needs for a warming center within the city of Pembroke, serving residents throughout the city and the county of Renfrew. And for the great work that you all did at AMO and Roma in terms of really pushing forward the child care, social assistance, and housing issues to the provincial government, making sure that they remember who the County of Renfrew is. In 2024, we've identified some of the things that we feel, and certainly seek your input on this, because we feel these are items that need a focus. And I think the first thing is our financial or fiscal sustainability. As you may recall, starting in January, we will see an overall reduction of $500,000 or $500,000 no longer coming to the County of Renfrew to help with the Ontario Works program. And that is going to put lots of pressure in terms of the services and the way we deliver services. So we will definitely need to have more conversation about this in 2024. As mentioned in our last meeting, but social issues and community services, specifically the impacts of homelessness and other issues like this, such as food insecurity, mental health issues, continue to be a very strong push in terms of the work that we do every day. And technology is an important item. We feel that we're at that point in time where we really need to have an examination of our telephone system and the way we manage our contact with our residents and clients, with our staff being out in the field a lot more and into community agencies and on the road. Having access to something like a VoIP system means that no calls will go unanswered, or very few calls will go unanswered, and that staff will be able to have quick access to anybody calling in. And this particular technology will lead us down a path that will see some financial savings in terms of our overall phone system. So we certainly feel that this is something that we're driven by the financial piece, but also the need to meet the needs of our residents in our community. As mentioned earlier, and certainly supported by some of the comments of this committee, the increase in licensed childcare spaces is going to be a huge pressure for us moving into 2024, and we really need to look at ways to expand that and really make sure that we push forward in terms of getting, I would say, our fair share here in the County of Renfrew. Through our community housing portfolio, we see that there's an opportunity in 2024 and beyond to really engage in more P3 partnerships in terms of increasing housing, affordable and attainable housing throughout the County of Renfrew. And, I think that's also in partnership with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and their 7 and 7 plan and all of the other great work that's taking place in the community. And the other item that I think is really something that we feel is important, and certainly hope that you see it as well, is that as things change in our community, our staff are at the forefront of the social and economic needs, as it's written right here. We're the ones that often see and hear first what's happening in terms of the difficulties that people are feeling. And of course, there's an expectation that are placed on our staff. And this is something that I think as a committee we need to address in 2024 is how do we continue to do this? How do we remain responsive and nimble? When the download of services took place over 25 years ago with the beginning of Ontario Works, followed by what was called social housing and then childcare, we had very prescriptive programs. We had we had lanes, as people would say, that you stay in these lanes. And these are the programs you offer, and these are the services you offer. And over time, we've had to expand upon that to what we are today, which is a very, very nimble, responsive service. And I think that's something that we can't overlook in this particular committee or this department, is that we continue to need to be responsive. We're in the forefront. We are often the first people called upon, very much like paramedic services when it comes to emergencies. We're front and center when it comes to working with vulnerable people. And while I know this list is a concise list, I know it's not all that we do, but certainly want to put this in front of this committee as some of the things that we feel are very pressing and would like to have your support on in 2024, but certainly want to hear from you in terms of what you feel our priorities need to be or need to change as we move into the budgeting season. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Congratulations, Laura, on both your departments for a very productive 2023, and we're looking forward to more great work in 2024. And maybe I should know this, but I don't. Listed just after the grind was something called the Fountain, and I don't know what the Fountain is.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, the Fountain is an organization located in Arnprior, and they are an organization that provides a host of services for vulnerable people in their community. So it could be food, it could be furniture, it could be clothing, but they're a partner that we work with very much like the Grind, different service than the Grind, but very much a similar type of concept of helping people in need in the community. So their organization is called the Fountain. Thank you.
And any other questions? Yes, Councillor from Whitewater Region.
Thank you, Chair. And I apologize, the passage of information that was going on back here. The warden had to leave, but asked me to raise an item for him
Certainly.
At this point. He just wanted to recognize social determinants of health and a living wage as items that need to be considered in all of the business that community services does. So to recognize it formally, if possible, when we're looking in 2024, as those things that guide our decisions. We are measuring what we are proposing to do, where we want to be, using those as our reference points. He did note that there was an article recently in InsideOttawaValley.com about the living wage here in the Ottawa Valley. So that as a reference point. I think you expected that. Okay, and I have some personal points too, if I could, Chair.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I love the list, and I don't want to detract from the priorities that have been listed. I would just add some emphasis into some areas. So, from increasing childcare spaces, and I'm a very large proponent of increasing the spaces, but also making sure that they're geographically relevant to where the need is. And we're not taking rural families and having them move to urban areas simply because of access to childcare. So there are other mechanisms that I think we should be exploring, such things, whether it's even as going as far as the extreme being municipal, purpose-built childcare in areas that we want to see childcare. Part of that to me is gathering the data, but I note that as another item. The other part, and I wasn't sure where it would fit, maybe in the expansion of services, but just consideration for an age-friendly community plan for Renfrew County. There's a huge gap in terms of service to our seniors. They fall between Ministry of Health and Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility. No one really captures them, and we're seeing it in initiatives like the Men's Shed and the Seniors Active Living Centers. Could that rest as something that the county could champion? So an age-friendly community plan for the county. And I'll just reemphasize the new housing partnerships. I would also leverage this as an opportunity to say again, something like the Prince Edward County initiative, where we are working not necessarily to provide our own housing, but to facilitate housing, affordable housing across the spectrum for across Renfrew County. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, next on my list is, I'm a little confused, asking for Ontario Works Department report. Next? Okay, or separate?
The vote, yeah, you have to vote on this.
Oh, yeah, I know that. That's why I'm asking, because I have two different, at any rate, we will vote on this. All right. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay. Yes, go ahead with the agenda.
Chair, just before we move on, it was an aside for the purpose of the committee.
Yes.
I have noted, and I think staff have also noted, the comments made by council members here, and we'll incorporate those into future
Thank you.
Future renditions of these plans.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee, there is an addendum as well that was sent out yesterday, and it's an information item, and it is, I'll just read it here, and it is the Treasurer's Report. Quarterly, we do present the Treasurer's Report for Community Services here in committee, and we have the September Treasurer's Report for you. It's attached, but I will ask first Andrea Patrick to speak to the Ontario Works, and then Margot Smith to speak to the childcare, and I'll speak to the community housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to committee. Good afternoon, everyone. The Ontario Works budget is showing us overspent by just over $100,000. The primary reason for that right now is just with regards to some reconciliation issues with our provincial subsidies coming forward. And I was able to speak with Mr. Burke just before the meeting, and I do have learned that we have some additional payments that have come in from the province that we were expecting. So this should be looking different at the year-end reconciliation. otherwise, things are on track for our budget in all other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee, I will speak to the childcare section of the treasurer's report, excuse me. And what I can indicate here is that there are many funding pots within the childcare budget. However, there are just 2 areas where there is a municipal contribution, which is within our administration and some of our core programming. You will note that at this time we are underspent and we are on track for the year.
Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'll speak to the community housing portion of the budget, and this is, as you know, we have the Renfrew County Housing Corporation budget, and then we have our community housing budget. And I would say that at this point, this is our September report, there's a lot of reconciliation that still needs to take place. I feel that what you see in front of you is a reflection of where we were in September, but we are mostly on target in terms of our budget for 2023. You'll see a lot of lines that have money moving in and out, and some of those numbers may not look correct, but we budget here on a January to December basis, and with some of our provincial money, we get that April to March. So you're going to see some odd numbers in there, but I believe we are on track. There are some lines that look a little overspent, like office supplies, but that's because one department may charge all of the office supplies to their budget, and then we reconcile out to the others. So I don't think we have any red flags or alarms in the community housing budget. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move on to the Ontario Works Division report. Ms. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. The Ontario Works report starts on page 30 of your package. And information item number 1 is the Ontario Works caseload statistics. You will see that throughout much of 2023, the total caseload was fairly static. Now, when I say static, I do mean the total. We do see a significant turnover in caseload on a monthly basis. On average, about 100 recipients exiting the program and about the same number coming onto the program. Item number 2 is a provincial support unit update. So this information item relates to some of the province's work towards streamlining administration and centralizing some of the functions in the application process. So this particular update is indicating that the support unit, the provincial support unit, will be managing files that are moving from Ontario Works to the Ontario Disability Support Program and processing those grants. So when a client is in receipt of Ontario Works and has been found eligible for the disability program based on their medical needs, they are considered a streamlined grant because the Ontario Works staff have determined their eligibility and uploaded all of the required documentation into SAM. So it's able to move to the one program to the other as a streamlined application. So this provincial support unit has started as a small pilot and is going to be expanding their work to do this for all ODSP offices in the province. So this particular initiative is not impacting any of the work of our staff. This is some administrative savings of work for the ODSP caseworkers. I did want to draw to committee's attention, though, just a note in the memo that it does indicate there that approximately 70% of recipients of the Ontario Disability Support Program have been moved from Ontario Works to the ODSP program. And I think that information is just important to note because as we are working through the employment services transformation and working to identify individuals who may be ready to work with Employment Ontario offices and identifying those who may need other help in the area of stability support, it is important to note that many individuals are not ready for employment and they're in receipt of Ontario Works, and our caseworkers are assisting them with getting doctors, getting a diagnosis, completing paperwork, and going through the sometimes lengthy and complicated process to have their files adjudicated in order to be moved over to the Ontario Disability Support Program. So although there are 2 separate programs, we are working on Ontario Works with many individuals who are not able to be participating in employment programs. Item number 3 is a meeting that was held with Serco Canada on the 23rd of October. It was held here in this building, and there was representatives from Serco Canada as well as from all Employment Ontario offices in Renfrew County and the Ontario Disability Support Program and our office. I had mentioned to this committee last month about our employment services transformation, which took place on October 1st, and Director Lepine referenced it earlier in her report. We are still early days, as she indicated, but the transition has gone relatively smoothly for our staff. The meeting was in person in order to talk about some of the service delivery needs for the job seekers in Renfrew County and to talk about some of the changes that have taken place with the employment services transformation. So as of October 1st, our caseworkers were able to refer individuals who were ready for employment preparation programs through to Employment Ontario or to Serco as the service system manager through electronic tools. And the Employment Ontario staff are then able to see that information and build onto it and put notes in as far as their meetings with individuals. And so it's shared technology that's able to be accessed for both. One of the other major changes that took place as part of this employment services transformation is that any employment benefits that are relating to individuals either preparing or starting employment are now administered by the Employment Ontario offices, and our staff are administering the special benefits relating to stability supports and life stabilization planning. So we did talk about how that has been going and just making sure that job seekers in Renfrew County continue to receive the supports and services that they need in the new streamlined way. And I can certainly report that all individuals at the meeting are very committed to making sure that our residents are very well served. And the last item in my report is centralized intake statistics. This is a snapshot from the province, which is on pages 43 and 44, that show all applications for Ontario Works that were received by the province in the month of July 2023, and which applications per municipality were able to be processed by the province and the provincial electronic tools, and which were directed back to local offices for processing. So I can draw your attention in the appendix on page 44. Renfrew County is identified on there, and in that month there was a total of 70 applications for Ontario Works for Renfrew County that came from Renfrew County residents, and you'll see 51% of those were directed back from the province to the municipality for processing, and 49% were processed provincially. So some of the reasons that the files were directed back are indicated and broken down. The risk-based eligibility determination, which is known as RBED. Sometimes this software will identify that there's a risk or a reason that it needs human intervention to make an eligibility determination. Others are directed back as warm transfers, which are generally crisis situations that are transferred to an individual in our office directly. And there was also a 3%, a few cases where there was some concerns with ID and consent verification. So this is part of this I thought was interesting to bring to committee's information. The province is continuing to work on expanding centralized intake. Part of some of the financial transfers that Director Lepine spoke about and the budgetary reductions coming to Ontario Works in 2024 do relate to some of the changes with respect to the employment services transformation, but also with respect to removing some of the administrative work from our staff with centralizing intake and processing of applications. So the province has made a commitment to continue to work towards getting a higher percentage of cases that are able to be granted centrally, and enable again more of the time of municipal caseworkers to spend supporting individuals with stability supports in the local office. And I'll stop there, Chair, at the end of my report. Thank you.
We go back to number 1, Ontario Works caseload statistics. Yes, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. And I feel like I'm learning something every time we have one of these committee meetings. So when I look at a number on there, September, we've got 1,200 caseload. You're saying that 800 of those are really files that you're working on in order to transfer to ODSP?
Yes, please.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Nicholson. No, the 70% is of the Ontario Disability Support Program caseload, which is approximately 3,000 in Renfrew County. 70% of their applications come from Ontario Works. So as opposed to individuals that are applying directly not in receipt of assistance, the majority are transferred from our office. So I'm not sure what is the percentage of individuals who are pending a disability application, but some of the new tools that the province is providing and some of the new data sets that we will be receiving post EST implementation should capture that information about individuals that are have, areas that they need support in, either to work towards medical stability or transfer to ODSP, and those that have been connected with Employment Ontario for help with employment activities. So I think one of the pieces that we will see is start to have some more robust data with this employment services transformation, because the tools that had existed prior in SAMS did not allow the province to generate enough information about, or the local municipalities to generate enough information about what individuals were doing on caseload. So we have at times in the past done a manual file crawl of 1,200 and had caseworkers record, but it's a lot of manual effort and not something that our staff takes a lot of time away. So we expect to have much more fulsome data as a result of the new tools, because some of the common assessment tools that I was speaking of that has now been built does require more categories so that it's correctly recorded exactly what is the nature of the activity that the individual that we're supporting is working on in their support plan or their common assessment and action plan. I hope that answers your question.
I think it maybe brought on another question.
So, and thank you. It just makes it very clear in my mind, I really don't know. So that's okay. I'm going to keep asking. Not all today. But when I look at this number then, this 1,200 in September, what does that tell me? Like what's important about 1,200? Is it high? Is it low? Does it indicate a problem in the community? What just in specific to Ontario Works?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the councillor from Whitewater. So what does it tell us? Well, first of all, about 1,200 is the total number of cases, and a case could be a single person, it could be a sole support parent with 4 children, it could be a couple with 3 children. So it's the number of family members is not reflected in here. That number is probably closer to 2,000 individuals when we count family members. These numbers are fairly reflective of where we have been traditionally. It's I think prior to the pandemic, our caseload was approximately 1,300, and then of course we saw quite a decline with the federal benefits that were available. And throughout 2022, the caseload climbed up, and I would say that we are maybe just under pre-pandemic level. So I think that the caseload it's not, growing. It's not higher than it was pre-pandemic. But that's what some of the comments that I can make to you about the caseload number.
Provincial Support Unit update. Circle meeting. I have one question about Circle meeting. When we met with them in North Renfrew, we had we sort of had the idea that they were going to come to us. And I think we do have an appointment coming up in the next month sometime up in Head Clara Marai. I'm not sure. No? Okay, well maybe it's come from it past you, but if I do, I'll send it to you. I just wanted to ask more questions on it later. Okay. And centralized intake statistics. Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, it's nice to see that the province is making efforts to streamline this process and to make it easier for our folks that use these services to access them a little easier. So it's nice to see, and I'm looking forward to more streamlining of the process in order to ease the access to the services. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can we move on to Child Care and Early Years Division report, please? Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon. The Child Care and Early Years report begins on page 45 of your package. And I will start with the information items. Number 1, inclusion services statistics. So this first chart shows our total inclusion services caseload numbers that have seen some minor fluctuations throughout the year so far. Information item number 2, licensed home childcare statistics. So this chart is specifically showing the statistics for the County of Renfrew licensed home childcare agency, which we directly operate here with our staff. And as of September, we have 8 homes currently open, serving 47 children. Information item number 3, licensed childcare statistics. As mentioned in past committee reports, licensed capacity is the total number of spaces that the childcare centres in the County of Renfrew are licensed for, and then the operating capacity is the number of spaces that are actually operational. And as mentioned earlier by Councillor Nicholson, there is a disparity there, and in due in large part to staffing complications that we see taking place. You will also notice on this chart that there were increases in the licensed and operating capacities both in April and September, and that is due to new centres opening. In April, Bamunzi Daycare opened in Petawawa, and in September, we saw the opening of Cours de Jeunes de Rivière, which is the Francophone Centre located in the new Francophone School in Arnprior. Another note just to point out is you will see a bit of a decrease in children served in the months of July and August, and that is due largely in part to some centres that close for holidays during the summer months. Information item number 4, childcare centre expansion update. So I wanted to give an update to you. If you've driven down Pembroke Street at all in the past few months, you certainly will have noticed a major construction project at Equinox School. This is a capital expansion of the existing childcare centre, which is called Centre Éducatif Cours des Jeunes L'Equinox. The expansion is going to see 39 new spaces, 15 toddler and 24 preschool, added to their current licensed capacity of 86 spaces. So just wanted to update that the build is scheduled for completion at the end of the year. So the hope is that the centre will be able to fill these new spaces early in 2024. Information item number 5, cultural space opening ceremony. So we did want to note that we were very happy to have some of our community services staff attend and participate in the Indigenous ceremonies that took place at the opening of the new cultural space at the Phoenix Centre on October 30th. Our staff shared that the space is extremely warm and welcoming, and it is intended to be a safe space to celebrate Indigenous culture and is a very valuable new resource within our community. Chair, I'll stop there. That's the end of my information items, and I do have a bylaw after that. Thank you.
I could use my teacher voice. Inclusion services statistics, number 1. Licensed home child care statistics. Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I noticed that we have an extra home that has now been licensed and open. Is there a reason why there aren't more homes? Is it just that there's not enough people applying, or is it difficult to obtain the license?
Through you, Chair, to committee, our licensed home agencies are continually promoting the benefits of being licensed. A couple of those benefits certainly being that, both of the licensed home agencies, ourselves as well as PMFRC, are enrolled in CWELC, which is the $10 to $12 a day daycare. So that is a huge benefit, as well as we have staff who support the licensed care providers. There are some vulnerable sector checks and various things that need to be in place once to be licensed within our agencies. So we are continually promoting. I'm not sure exactly why there's not more homes at this point, but it is something that we definitely want to see.
Yes, we have someone else to speak on that.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I just want to add to what Margot has said, is that this is the largest number of homes we've ever had opened. So when we took this on over 5 years ago, we were running around 2 or 3 at that time. So we've actually seen a spike in the last year, given that across county we can have up to 25. And I believe PMFRC can have 40, and they're currently at 5. So it's definitely, we're building quickly, but it doesn't look so quick when there's only 8, but 8 is the largest we've ever had, ever. So that actually is a huge accomplishment, given that the amount of work that does go into it. And we're going to continue to onboard, but we're also struggling with the numbers that the province allocates to us as well. Thank you.
Number 3, licensed childcare statistics. Number 4, Child Care Center expansion update. It is causing quite a backlog on Pembroke Street. Number 5, Cultural Space Opening Ceremony. Bylaws.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. Bylaw, so number 6, amendment to bylaw 50-17, County of Renfrew new licensed home agreement. May I read the recommendation? The recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommend that bylaw number 50-17, authorizing the County of Renfrew to enter into an agreement with licensed home childcare service providers, be amended to enter into an agreement with Candace Gellert in Laurentian Valley.
Do I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor from Killaloe Haggerty Richards and Councillor from Whitewater Region. Background?
Thank you, Chair. To provide some background, and I should have mentioned this when Councillor Service had asked his question, we do have another home to add to the list, which is exciting. The County of Renfrew has directly operated a licensed home childcare agency over the past few years, and as Director Lepine mentioned, we currently have 8 homes that are operating under our license, located in Arnprior, Haley Station, Eganville, and Pembroke, and this new home will be located in Laurentian Valley on Cottonham's Island.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Passed. That ends our Community Services Department reports. Number 7, is there any new business? Oh, yes, thank you. Mover and seconder for the report as a whole. Yes, Councillor from Pembroke and Councillor from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. All those in favor? Thank you. Now new business. Seeing none, I see there's no closed meetings. The date of the next meeting will be at the call of the chair. And I believe we can adjourn as of now. I don't have anything else on my paper. All right. All right. I'll let you do that. We have a reminder. coming.
Oh, thank you, through you, Chair. Just a reminder that County Council is on Wednesday, November 29th, here in Chambers. Thank you.
Okay, I need a mover and seconder to adjourn this meeting. Councillor from Pembroke and Councillor from Whitewater Region. All those in favor? Thank you. You're dismissed.